Super excited today to welcome Kan, Vladislav Kan. Kan is from Carousell. He is currently an engineering manager at Carousell, based in Singapore. He was originally from Kazakhstan and did university in KL in Malaysia. Worked in KL at a software agency as well as a tech company called Team as a software engineer, then senior software engineer focusing on mobile, Android and iOS development. He joined Carousell 5 years ago as a senior software engineer, has progressed in his career at Carousell and is currently an engineering manager. And he's here today. He's going to be sharing with us more about the mobile development, his journey as a software engineer, mobile development, as well as engineering culture at Carousell. I'm very excited to welcome Kan, and we'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kai, for the introduction. I think I have to skip now the one of the slides that I created, right?
Sorry, keep screwing
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm super excited. I haven't been doing this actually for really long time. I think yeah, since it's been pandemic as well, it's a little bit difficult to arrange online sessions. But yeah, thanks for having me here. Let's see how it will go. Okay, let me present my screen then first. Yeah, how do I do that? All right. Can you guys see my slides?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so basically, let me just start with the topics that we're gonna be covering today. So I'll start with the introduction, which Kai already started actually. And after that, we can talk about basically how can your journey look like after you graduate, right, and choose to pursue this career. But of course, with a reference to Carousell, because I have the most experience in Carousell, and other companies would have more or less similar stuff. But yeah, that's one of the companies that I can refer to. So things we can talk about are how do you even choose your specialization, right? So I can give you more perspectives on mobile development, and you can see if this is something that you like. Another thing is, what do you expect on the interviews? Again, from an example of Carousell. And how basically will your work life look like after you join your first company? And we can end up with some of the lessons that I found useful that I kind of learned along the way. And yeah, of course, the Q&A session. Yeah, so as Kai already mentioned, I was in this industry for more than 8 years. Been working in a company called Sales.com, social media company called Team, a company that provides services. You can hire cleaners, etc. And of course, Carousell, which is doing in a way everything right now. And okay, so yeah, mostly I worked on Android. But I did work on some of the applications for iOS as well, and had an experience on designing UI and UX along the way. So I kind of was trying to collect all the kind of experiences possible before I choose the specialization that I really want to commit to. Yeah, so started at Carousell as an Android engineer as well, 5.5 years ago. And over a year ago, I transitioned into engineering management and currently leading a merchants team. It's one of the monetization teams in Carousell. So what we're doing is basically we are helping our more kind of active sellers, professional sellers, to achieve their goals. We build tools for them to be more productive and basically help them to get more visibility in our marketplace. So if you guys been using Carousell, if you're familiar with it, once you list the listing in the profile page, there's a promote button there. So this is something that my team is mostly working on. Yeah, so how do you choose a specialization, right? So basically, I would say that there's no wrong specialization. You're gonna totally enjoy any of them, whether it's backend, front end, mobile. But please don't choose the native. Not non-native applications. You're gonna have problems with that. Yeah, so fundamentally, it's just what kind of problems that you're gonna be solving, right? So if, for example, you're mobile and web, You can think of it as you're going to be developing something that is going to be touched by millions of users, but they're going to be like using it independently, right? So you can focus on providing this best user experience to this particular user, like per session, concentrate on this one session. So when it comes to more backend engineering, right, it's a little bit different because you will be thinking that like millions of that's something that your colleague just built recently is going to be trying to go and talk to your system. And what you need to do is you need to start thinking of how do I support that? Like, how do I scale it? If millions of people are trying to make some kind of changes to your database, I mean, of course, not directly. Like, how do I maybe space it up and like make sure that it doesn't break anything on my system? So like these are on a very high level, like some of the differences between backend and mobile and web, of course. So in terms of the importance, right? Like, because like you cannot say that one of them is more important than the other. To provide the best user experience to users, you have to concentrate on both. One cannot be working without another. If you have like really the best mobile application, but your backend is slow, it's not a good user experience. At the same time, if your backend is really fast, the response is really fast, providing the best queries and stuff, and your mobile is buggy, it's not intuitive. It's also a big problem, right? So yeah, like as I said, no matter what you choose, it's everything plays a huge role in the providing the user experience. I've collected also some of the random differences that I found like fundamentally different. I mean, like all the technical stuff you can find online, right? What are the differences? But in terms of your day-to-day work, so here are some of the things. So first of all, the release. As a backend engineer, you have like you can release your code basically anytime. So where it helps is, for example, if you shipped something that is faulty, what you can do is you can test it, build it, test it, and ship it. Everybody's using your new version, and everybody's happy. When it comes to mobile, it's a little bit different because people will have to download your new application, right? And the adoption rate is usually pretty slow. So let's say if we want to deprecate some of the APIs on the backend, we have to think half a year in advance, because even after half a year, there will be still people who just simply don't want to update their applications. They probably like uncheck their auto update. When it comes to web, it's a little bit different because it depends on like company by company. Some companies will have releases every day, but technically it is possible. So that's why I put like yes or no. On calls. So this is also some of the one of the interesting things. So like there's no perfect system. There will be problems, right? And as a backend engineer, it is your responsibility to make sure that everything works smoothly all the time. And what our backend engineers are doing, they have their rotations. And one of them, for example, will be at a point of time will be on call. And what it means is that you're going to receive an alert and you have to go and check what's going on there. And if something is broken, something is important, you have to fix it or pin somebody who can fix it. So when it comes to mobile, there's no such things. Like even if you broke something, you have to live with it. You just release a new app and hope that people update it. Web, again, is slightly difficult to say because in Carousell, for example, we have on call as well. But I mean, to be honest, it's more like a mobile. There's like nothing that is breaking like that. So community accepted standards, coding standards. So what I mean by that is that when it comes to mobile, for example, you have these standards, community accepted standards, in terms of how you should be writing your code, how should you write your architecture. There are more or less agreed like design patterns that the community is using. And mainly because this is dictated by like these big companies like Apple and Google. So you can say it's a benefit because there's only one way to write things, and it's probably the right way. And like you just follow that, study that. When it comes to backend and web, this is a little bit more complicated because every company is operating in a different way. Everybody has totally different architecture, especially on web. There's no agreed on one right solution. There are so many opinions. So every time probably you're going to be joining a new company, there will be like a little bit of a learning curve for you. So if I would rate between this, I would say mobile is the easiest. Backend, then it comes backend. Because more or less the principles are pretty much the same, but like there will be the difference of the language, like Java versus Go, for example, and like the architecture as well. And web would be the last one because there's just so many different things that you can do. Now, in terms of the teams, right? So basically, like if you talk about like a normal Scrum team, you would have like you would normally have one mobile engineer per team. So that means that if you're an Android engineer, you're going to be the only one who is working on this feature at a given time for your team. When it comes to like backend and web, normally you will be working in the team. So it's in a way like if you prefer like really collaboration, like this is probably something that you can consider. There will be always challenges in all of these platforms, so don't be worried about that. There will be work for everybody. And of course, in terms of the job demand as well, as a hiring manager myself, I can tell you that we're looking for everybody all the time. So there is literally no difference, no problems for that. Let's talk a little bit on the interview process. So like it varies again from the level of the engineers. I'm talking about like this is more or less as well like in the same in other companies, but in Carousell this is how it looks like. So mainly if you are like a good person, you have a good attitude, yeah, you don't have any kind of like mental problems or something. The only, I would say, like personally, I would say that the only things that you need to worry about are like your first three like technical rounds, which is like the home challenge, technical round 1, technical round 2. So like at each of these rounds, there will be testing different things. For the home challenge, for example, it's usually a HackerRank test. So you're going to be, it's like some kind of problem solving skills that you're going to be tested for. And for Android, for example, we're given like a take home assignment, build an app, like show me how you build it. When it comes to technical round 1 and 2, this is more like one would be more concentrated on the system designs, for example. The second one would be more on problem solving skills and your language knowledge, coding skills, etc. Engineering management is just basically to understand whether you are a good fit for the team, you have a good attitude, you're hardworking. Whether you're gonna be like having any problems with the current teammates, how will you be fit in the team. The product management round is more about your understanding on how the product works. Why is it important? Is because we don't have like this old kind of structure where like the designs are just, the product is just decided somewhere on the top and then you're just given the task and then you're working on that. So we are trying to operate in a team and where all engineers are expected to give their inputs, their feedback, and come up with ideas as well. So that's why it's very important as well to have a PM round, a product manager. CTO and co-founder rounds are mostly on the culture fit to the entire organization. So yeah, as I said, in your journey, concentrate, or if you're a good person, concentrate on the technical rounds. The rest you shouldn't be stressed about. So yeah, how will your work life look like at not at Carousell, like just in general, right? So like a typical development phase looks like this, where you have your product discovery, design session, tech discovery, development, and release. So in product discovery, this is it starts. The product starts with the product manager coming up with what is important for us at this point of time, and what's the direction that we want to take. And he comes up with some of the ideas, talks to the team as well about them. And then he starts slowly involving more and more engineers into the discussions to get some of the inputs, ideas from them. Once this is more or less finalized, he organizes the session with the entire team and gets the input on the wider the wider audience, right? After that, we are moving into the design session, pretty much the same thing, coming up with Figma designs, prototypes. Technical discovery is done fully by engineers. So this is where you decide on how your architecture is going to look like. You write it, RFC. RFC is a document where like you request for comments. And then you talk to your clients, mobile engineers, to decide on what's the what are your communication between client and engineer, what client and backend is going to look like, how you're going to be testing it, how you're going to be releasing it. And of course, after that, you move into the development stage where you start with your coding, integrate with your team, like see what works, what doesn't, testing, and releasing. Releasing, for example, at Carousell, we have dog fooding. Dog fooding is something that is like we are sharing the product to our own people first to get some initial feedback before releasing it to the wide public. Yeah, so I was talking to Kai, I think, so basically, like this is something that I wanted to show, some of the examples of the designs that we do. So like we're using, Kai, can we see this?
Yeah, it's a bit small. Can others see it?
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit small. But we can see we can generally get the gist of it. Yeah. Can't read the text, but we can get the gist of it. Yeah.
So basically, like, okay, let me just zoom it up and see, like, on the high level, this is how the design of the typical application looks like. So basically, this is something that designers would come up with, and then they would come to us and get some of the feedback. So like, basically, it's the entire flow of the application. We are using a tool called Figma for that. So an interesting part, again, like on the differences between backend and frontend is it's always very interesting to see how different engineers are looking at the designs, because everybody's looking just from their own perspectives. So a client engineer would be thinking, okay, what are the interactions on this design that I'm going to have to implement, right? And the backend would be thinking, right, probably clients will be asking me to provide this information, and which services will I call to give this information to them, and how do I make sure that like I don't call too many microservices and like at the same point of time. Yeah, I mean, we can come back to this if you guys want to like see more of this like at the Q&A session. All right, I'm almost done. So basically, the thing that I wanted to finish with is a couple of lessons that I learned along the way. So like, I guess you guys are changing your career, and I was thinking that this is going to be something like quite useful for you. So like the first thing is that like it's always very hard to start, right? So like I know a lot of people, they say that it's hard to find a job after the boot camp or something, right? But what I believe in, and what I like to say, is that you just need to find one person to start. You just need to convince one believer that you're gonna deliver, that you're worth a shot. So like I have an experience as well in my life as well, similar. So as a part of my graduation, as a part of my studies, I had an internship program. So I needed to look for a company, and I served 3 months in this company, and nobody wanted to take me. Like I don't know what were the reasons. Maybe like because I'm a foreigner or something. But yeah, nobody wanted to take me. And then there was just one interview that I went for. And yeah, so I came to this interview, and then the guy is like, so what do you know? Like, how can you be useful here? And I just said, like, look, I have no knowledge. I don't know what to do. I don't know what specialization I can do even. I have no experience. But if you're willing to teach me, I will show you that, like, I mean, I can do stuff. And yeah, so like, I guess the guy was like kind of impressed with this honesty or something. And he said, okay, then you can take 1 week, come back after 1 week, try to learn this language called Ruby, and we'll see how far you can go. So I came home and I started studying for the whole week nonstop, like for like day and night. And the problem was that he didn't tell me when to stop, right? So like, well, what is enough? and I didn't know as well. Like, so I had to like just continue studying, and yeah, I came like almost asleep to him, showed him what I got. Like I built some small application, and yeah, and this is how I got my first job. And the thing is that like this just one experience, right? So because of this one believer, in a way, it set my whole career, and like I became an engineer just because of that, right? So second thing is just ask, basically. Like what I mean by that is that um, like you never know what kind of problems like your team is trying to solve. So if you are interested in something, why don't you just ask? So like I was hired as a backend engineer twice, and but I was interested in Android engineering, like mobile. So I just asked, like, hey, are you guys actually like, building any mobile applications? And they were like, yes, we were actually looking for somebody. So I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. So like this is how twice I transitioned from backend engineer, like even though I was hired as a backend engineer, so I transitioned into mobile. And same thing like when I was working at Carousell, right? I was trying to get more experience in like leadership and all. So I just started asking. I was like, hey, is there like anything that I can like do instead of you? Like I told my manager, like, can I do something instead of you? I can learn, and you can like get some more free time to do some more meaningful stuff. He was like, yes, come. Like you can lead these sprints, for example, or like lead this, lead that. Like there is literally nobody who is gonna tell you no or like offend you in any way because of that, because you just asked. And the last thing was it's always faster if you learn from like a group of people. So like when I was working at the Code team, I had an opportunity actually to become like a lead for mobile there. And I mean, for me, it meant a lot actually. But I decided to join Carousell, and in a way, after joining, I realized that it was the right decision. Why? Because all the things that I've been learning myself were almost nothing comparing to all the things that I managed to learn within a very short period of time while studying with a group of people, by just like working with them, seeing what they do, asking them questions, and figuring out something along the way together with the people. Yeah, so like these are the three things that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know, I hope it's helpful. And yeah, I guess we can just jump into the Q&A session. I hope I didn't take too much time. Oh my God, 25 minutes.
No,
I'm sorry,
that's great. No, that's great. It's great. Dude,
I was trying to make it short and didn't.
No. It's so good, so good. Great. Well, let me just share the Pigeonhole link again with everyone. So in case you haven't seen it, just shared it in the chat. So if you have questions, post it there and we'll upvote. Maybe I'll just kick it off with some questions of my own first from your chat. Thanks, Kan, for the sharing and the stories. I also shared a copy of the draft slides for viewing only. I hope that's okay, so students can go back and forth on their own and refer to what you were talking about for questions.
Yeah, sure. Please just ignore all the slides after the Q&A because it's just like some of the templates.
Okay. Yeah, you were talking in the early part of the presentation, you're talking about mobile versus web, and you were saying that hey, with backend, you have to handle millions of users accessing these services, and with mobile and web, you have to handle millions of people. Well, hopefully millions of people. I guess if you're Carousell, it's millions of people accessing your mobile apps and your web apps. Maybe you can dig a bit deeper, and this is related to Dylan's question as well on the Q&A board. How would we decide whether web or mobile is the direction we want to go? Like, do we just apply for general software engineering jobs, or should we off the bat be thinking, oh, I want to go for mobile, or I want to go for a web role, or go for a backend role?
Well, I would say, as I said, like don't worry too much about this. Like, so if you're joining a good company, what you can do, you can be like hired as a general software engineer. They will first, of course, put you in some kind of specialization like backend, for example, or like or mobile. Mostly for some reason people think of backend, to be honest. But in any case, what you can do is you can try it out and see if it works for you. If not, they will, like if you, for example, want to try mobile instead, some companies will just move you into mobile and you can try it as well. We were actually thinking of maybe like having this kind of like programs as well, because we're hiring interns and fresh grads as well, right? So we're thinking of maybe this is something that we could try, where you're joining one team, trying something, and then moving to another team, and trying something else as well, like as a part of your onboarding. Like I would say, don't worry about choosing this specialization. Fundamentally, the difference, as I said, is the kind of problems that you're going to be solving. So it's like, look at it as what are you getting the satisfaction from, right? So like if you are a person who like likes the idea that like you're gonna build a UI and millions of people gonna be like transitioning from one screen to another, like experiencing like basically the UI that you build, then probably mobile is for you. Like if you are more kind of interactive kind of person, like, I mean, you want to be the first person that your users are interacting with. That's what I mean. Like in case of backend, I would say that if you're a person who is who loves solving problems on like behind the scenes, and basically it's all about the optimization, about like scheduling different kind of messages and stuff like that. So then backend is probably something that you would want to consider. Yeah, I hope that answers, Dylan.
Yeah, actually, maybe I can follow up. Oh, Dylan, do you? Maybe I follow up a little bit on Dylan's question as well.
Yeah.
So Dylan's question was a bit more specific about Rocket's curriculum. So our curriculum right now, we focus primarily on web development as a vehicle for students to learn the patterns of app development. We also, of course, learn algorithms during our course. And so during Rocket's Bootcamp, we cover things like front-end web development, primarily using React, and a few, and for, I guess, for some of the newer students, which may not be here, but we will cover Firebase, which is a backend as a service. And for backend technologies, we use Express, of course, Express, PostgreSQL, and that stack. And so I guess Dylan's question is, given that we're learning web development as our vehicle of learning app development at Rocket Academy, does that limit the jobs that we can get to only web development related jobs, or how easy or hard or how natural is it to learn other areas such as mobile, for example?
Yeah, so basically I would say no, it doesn't limit you in general, because like at your school, right, you're getting the fundamental knowledge of like how to code, how systems work, right? And more or less like every system operates in a similar way. Of course, if you dive deeper, there will be differences, right? But more or less like it's just the experience that you need to get. And once you start working, like I had a lot of like I've seen a lot of people who are switching their specializations along the way. Of course, like how to say, mentally, I would say that it's a little bit like the further you go, it's harder, right? Because like if you, for example, have a 5 years experience of mobile and then you suddenly want to switch to backend, it's like mentally you would be thinking that like, okay, I'm going back to the square one. But in reality, like I've seen a lot of engineers who actually even after like 5-6 years, they switch to like, let's say, backend or something, and yeah, they're still considered as a senior engineers, even like more diverse kind of engineers. So yeah, no, I would say that like getting this kind of experience will not limit you to just one specialization.
Dylan, do you have a follow-up? Any follow-ups for that?
No, I think it's answered enough.
Thanks for the question, Dylan.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Awesome. Yeah, and related to this topic of mobile and web and these kind of specializations, Kan, you mentioned earlier that if for mobile teams there may be only one engineer per team. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? Like, what does that mean if there's only one engineer per team?
Sure.
Carousell's mobile app, there will be so many engineers, right?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is that it depends on how your teams are structured, organized in the company, right? In a typical Scrum team, which is how Carousell is operating, we would have a number of backend engineers in one team. So there were like 2-3 engineers. There will be an engineer per platform, which is Android, iOS, and sometimes there would be 1 or 2 web engineers. So this is like a typical Scrum team. Like it's in a way it's organized to serve as an independent unit to solve a specific problem. Of course, there are different companies that operate in a different way. Some companies choose to have a mobile team, so that would mean that all your 8 engineers that are working in one company, like 8 or 10, they would be in one team. So the request comes, and one of these engineers is taking the job to be done. But if you are more like agile kind of company, like Carousell, we prefer to have independent units focusing on solving specific problems. Yeah, so of course, the way you can look at it is like you would have your squad where like as a single unit, as I said, but horizontally, you would also have a team of Android engineers. So they're still going to be reviewing each other's code. They're still going to be looking like at the platform, how to improve it and stuff like that. They're still going to have their sync ups, but they're going to be solving different problems.
Nice. That answers it. Yeah. Ray, did you have any follow-ups on that? You mentioned it's good to know. Ray?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a while to unmute. So typically, how many engineers are we looking at in one independent unit in Carousell? I mean, just to understand the structure you're explaining. Yeah.
So basically, if you look at like definitions of, I think like in the agile like Scrum teams, typically you are looking at 7 to maybe 9 engineers per team, which is considered to be efficient. And of course, it varies from team to team, but typically you would have not more than like 9-10 people in a team of total of engineers.
Sorry, let me just check if I got this correct. So each independent unit is about 7 to 9 engineers per team. Then normally the way you all run this at Carousell is 1 backend engineer, 1 web development engineer, and then the rest are mobile engineers, right? According to
no, that's opposite. That's opposite.
Sorry.
So the way it works is you would have 1 Android engineer, 1 web, 1 or 2 webs, 1 iOS engineer, and the rest would be your backend engineers.
Oh. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks. Cool. Really cool setup. Yeah.
Thanks for the question. And I guess there may be another question that could be asked, right? Is why do we have more backend engineers rather than clients, right? Okay. Yeah. So basically, the reason behind this is because we are mostly operating on backend heavy. The logic behind this is relatively simple. So let's say you have your logic that you need to display on 3 platforms, right? 3 client platforms. So would you rather write all this logic on 3 independent platforms, or would you rather put it into 1 backend and then send it to the clients? So I guess fundamentally that's the difference.
It makes a lot of sense. And for example, one squad, one feature could be like the merchant's advertising tool that your team is building, something like that.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds very cool and efficient. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for the question. Yeah.
Rob has a very relatively high voted question, which I think is on top of everyone's minds. How do you negotiate a reasonable starting salary as a bootcamp graduate or entry-level developer so as to not take too big of a pay cut when changing industry? And I know that Kan himself was a CS grad, so but maybe he has some experience.
How do you negotiate a salary, right? So I would say typically we would have like an allocated budget for how I would say is that we have let's say 5 positions open for fresh graduates. and there would be specific budget for these fresh graduates.
Mm.
So I think like only in this case, that's how it works. But again, like with regards to the salaries, it's a level higher that is deciding on that. So like this is what I can say from what I know.
Cool. Rob, do you have any follow-ups on that?
So I would say that just to add to this, right, is like right now the market is pretty hot, right? So basically, if you secure a job in a good company, like you will have enough to survive. You will have enough to survive. It will be a good salary actually. And at the same time, like you shouldn't look at this as like, I mean, like you should look at this as not as how much I'm going to be getting right now, right? But it's what kind of job you want to do for the remaining time, right? And like what are the perspectives that, like what are the things that you can get later on once you get your experience.
Yeah, that's something that I also usually share with our students is, of course, we have to earn enough to survive and pay the bills, but beyond that, we recommend optimizing for learning, right? So if you have a chance to join a great team with a bunch of people we can learn from, we recommend that over joining a team where you may be earning slightly more, but you may not be learning as much. So
yeah. Again, just to add about this is that like it really, like in this case, it really depends on the company that you're going to be choosing. Because there will be companies that will be just having a lower pay scale. Yeah, that's all, and you cannot do anything about it.
Cool. Related to this kind of getting into the jobs, Gary has a question. Could you share more of your experience on your first job hunt? So I know you talked a little bit earlier about applying, and there was that one believer. What was your strategy? Just applying for all the jobs regardless of interest, or attempting all of the take homes that everyone gave? What was your strategy there?
Yeah, so basically, like as I was saying, right, like what you need to do is just play on the number. Like I mean, like you get rejections, just go ahead and continue applying. Like I would just pick like the first list of companies that I would want to work on, and I would put all the effort there, and still continue spreading, like sending my CV to the rest of them. And once again, as I said, like you don't think about it as something that you're going to be like, you're not choosing a wife, it's not forever. Your first job is just for you to get started. So yeah, just go for it. You're going to learn a lot of things there, and this is just going to be your beginning. That's all.
Gary, does that answer your question?
Yeah, just to further add on maybe another question on top of that, probably how do you like gauge whether on the company culture that you're applying for? Because I guess it's really hard to nail down whether this is the company they want to work for, where the work culture is positive, where there are mentors that are guiding you, etc. So is there any like any tips that you usually do to actually gauge like, oh, this is the place that I want to work for, or rather than going in there like, oh, okay, actually this is the company isn't that conducive. Yeah,
thanks Gary for the question. Like I don't know if I can answer that, like I give you the answer that you're looking for, because like I mean, if you look at my career, I worked for like 3-4 companies, right? At most. So like job hunting is not something that I did a lot. So what I can tell you is I can tell you what kind of things that you can expect from in terms of the culture, right, from a good company. And what you can do is like next time you go for an interview, you can ask them and see if it's something that it matching, right? So like a company that you're looking for to work with is a company who's going to be, first of all, valuing you. So you would want to have you would want to work in a company where your opinion matters, and you're not a code monkey just to go and do your code there, to write a code. So what you're looking for is a company that is looking for specialists to solve specific user problems. So that means that you should be involved in all the develop, or all the development processes, all the phases. You should be empowered to do changes that you think are important. So like I really don't like the concept where people are just going and like getting approves from the higher management every time they want to make a change. So like I'll give you an example. We had recently an engineer joined us, and he was really shocked by one of our senior engineers. He just found a bug. He decided on the solution. He fixed it, tested it, brought it to the team, deployed. And the guy was like shocked. Like, aren't you supposed to like go and like ask for approvals from the design, from the product? He's like, no, I mean, I think that this is the best. I'm capable of making this decision. So like this is the kind of culture that you are looking for to work with. In terms of the mentorship, right? You're also asking. I think it's also very important. So will there be enough of senior engineers that will have enough time to give you some kind of valuable, like I don't know, educational, how to say, like inputs on whatever you're working on, right? So this is also something that you should be considering. Like just to elaborate, you don't want to get into a group of blind people and finding the way as well with them.
Yeah.
Hope that answers, Gary.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah, related to interviews, earlier we were talking about the two. Well, there's a HackerRank test or kind of a take-home automated test. There may be a take-home, and then there are two in-person technical tests. One more related to systems design, another one more related to problem solving. For the problem solving one, is that going to be similar to the HackerRank kind of test, but just in person, or is there a different angle to that interview?
Frankly speaking, it varies also from company to company, and even in Carousell, we've been changing the processes quite a lot. So like just to adapt our hiring to the new standards, right? So like in terms of Android, for example, right, as I was saying, the take-home assignment is not really like your problem-solving skills. Like it's not some kind of how do you call it? The
algorithms?
Algorithms, yes. It's not algorithms. So what we used to do, what we're doing right now is we are giving you a task, like in a way to build a certain application. And once you come with this application to us, we start asking you questions about this. Why did you build it? I mean, how did you build it? How did you build it? And why did you choose these specific components to build it? So this gives us like an understanding on the real work that you're going to be working on, right? What was the other part about that? What was the question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, how similar is it to HackerRank
right.
or like algorithms? Yeah.
So when it comes to backend now, so in backend, yes, you can say that it's a similar thing. So the idea behind having a HackerRank test is because we need to understand that our interviewing resources are also limited in a way. Like we don't want to spend, like we can't put our engineers to spend so much time on reviewing so many candidates, and that's why you can look at it as in filtering kind of like session in a way, so that like at least you eliminate, how to say, remove the engineers who are not there yet. So like what's the point of taking the next round if you cannot solve this problem? Something similar to this.
And so when we meet for the in-person technical, if people make it to the in-person technical interview, it is looking for problem-solving skills, communication skills in a similar algorithm type problem.
Frankly speaking, communication is in a way tested like along the way, like everywhere. So like usually we would have a debrief after all the interviews, and usually engineers would like these communication skills pop up a lot.
Mm.
So like whether you are actually capable of delivering your thoughts in like in the form of words, right? Whether you are thinking in a structured way. But the problem solving skills, right, is it's mostly like algorithms for backend that you're going to be working on. Well, that's I guess pretty much it.
Awesome. All right, now we have some exciting questions about turning more to your work. So Ray was asking, what was one of the most challenging problems you've had to solve in your career as a back-end engineer? So I know that you've mostly worked as a mobile engineer, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, feel free to answer either back-end or mobile, or in your engineering career in general.
That's a tough one. Basically, I didn't have like any challenges in backend because like I simply just don't know yet enough of that. But when it comes to mobile, right, the most challenging things, I can't really name one, but like the challenging things that you're going to be encountering probably would be working with videos on mobile. So like building this library around images is something challenging. Why? Because like different phones would have different like there would be still slight differences in the way they take pictures, for example, and the format of these pictures that they produce, and you have to like test it on all the devices and see if it works. Another thing was, I guess, developing a chat application. It's something that I would build completely different right now, but I think it was something that was interesting for me to build at that point of time. The reason why is because this is also my favorite interview question, by the way. So the reason behind it is because so there are different types of communication, right, between client and backend. So there is your HTTP, there is like what you guys do in Firebase, right, stuff, real-time databases, I think, right, it's called. And there is also peer-to-peer connection that is going to be always running. And the interesting thing was that when I started my journey, I kind of tried all of them to see which one works for a chat until I decided on the connection, like peer-to-peer connection, right? And there were a lot of challenges there because I was building an application that was meant for web. In a way, it was complete backend design completely for web. And it was not in Carousell, by the way. It was outside of that. Like that's why, in a way, think of it as in like you just constantly getting an information about something. So there's like open this, open that. This is the message that somebody sent, and then you need to build some kind of parser that is going to be converting this into some kind of actions that you need to display on the screen, like some kind of UI that you need to display on the screen. So I guess that was like one of the challenges that I remember.
Awesome. Ray, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that was very helpful and clear. Yeah, thanks, Kan. Yeah.
Related question
Thanks
from
again.
Joey. What was what did you enjoy most as a software engineer so far? Maybe they're the same.
Right. Okay. So as a mobile engineer, I really like to solve, like to build the best user experience, basically, for the users, right? So what I enjoy the most is knowing that I can build something that is that intuitive that your grandmother can just open the application and figure out what to do. So in a way that how you should be thinking about a good UI is that you shouldn't be reading the text, for example, to understand what you need to do. So like, when you open an application, there will be like descriptions on certain things, right? So like my understanding about this is that like your UI should be that easy so that you don't have to put all these tips and like explanations. And yeah, like that probably gives me like satisfaction in the work. Another thing that I like to do is to build reusable components, libraries. So this is more towards the. By the way, am I still screen sharing? By the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to this. Yeah, nice.
Yes. So like this is in a way about like this is your typical mobile architecture. So you have your presentation layer, business layer. Presentation is what I was saying, is the way your application is, or the way your user is interacting with your application. Business one is something that is going to be like a controller. It controls what kind of UI to display, how to display. Sorry, not how, what to display, and how to process the interactions with the presentation, and yeah, basically work with data. So at the beginning of my career, I really liked this presentation layer. So like I really like to build these beautiful UIs. Towards the like the more senior I became, like the more understanding I got, I started enjoying to work more on the business and data layers. Why? Because like I wanted to build something that can be later on reused by other components, other presentation layers. So you want to build on versatile products that next time your product manager comes to you and says, how long do you need to build this? You say like, I can build it tomorrow. These kind of things. And building libraries is the next level as well, something that you would really enjoy as well. Libraries is something that can be used even by multiple applications. So like at Carousell, for example, I said we are working on the like we have a chat, right? And currently we are actually building an infrastructure that could be potentially working with not only Carousell application, but maybe some others as well. Like that we like Chotot, Muda, for example. Yeah, probably like, I hope that answers.
Yeah, do we need to answer your question?
Yes. If I could just ask a little bit of follow-up. So in terms of like what you're saying, like, you enjoy most the user interface, and then you sort of evolve from looking at it from the user interface to more on the database design. What are sort of like factors that you've encountered, like challenges that you find like within your workspace that you've experienced so far that sort of makes it really difficult to try to achieve what you're trying to achieve? Am I making sense?
Are you asking from the technical point of view, or from
from like if you're trying to pitch an idea, and then what could be the blockers of like your like team leaders sort of like vetoes, like no that might sound good but might take too long or might take too many resources? Like what do you find was like the most frequent blockers that you've encountered so far?
As a mobile engineer, right?
Yeah.
So as a mobile engineer, like the challenges that I had were to so basically, like, let's say you have this old piece of code that you really don't like and you want to change it, and in some cases you can do that. In some cases you have to get some help from your backend engineers. But backend engineers not always have time, so that means that you need to convince your engineering manager that it's important for you to fix. So like in the past, I would say that these were like some of the challenges that we had, and depends on like how big is the scale, right? How much time is going to require. So like in the past, there was like the challenge because like Carousell was at the early stage, right? So, and what we used to do is we needed to build fast. We needed to build a lot of features that would make sense right now, and we didn't really have much time on like redesigning some of the things from the technical point of view that we built previously in the past. Right now, everything's changing. So like right now, we don't have this kind of challenge because we are moving more into the tech-driven development, where we say that like tech debt is very important, and quality is our number one priority. So like it's different challenges that are coming up.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We are coming up to the hour, so I'm going to wrap up a few questions. I guess they're somewhat similar. Rob had a question. In your work as an engineering manager, what qualities do you look out for most in an entry-level engineer? And related to that, Su Ping, she's going for some interviews. Recently, she's been asking for the system design interview. Right? Does that apply to entry-level engineers as well? What do we look out for in those kinds of experience? How should someone with no experience on production applications tackle such an interview?
All right. So basically, yeah, I'm sorry, Kai, what was the first one again?
The first one is just what do you look out for? And then the second
okay. Yeah. Let me start with that first. Okay. Otherwise, I'll forget. All right. Anyway, so what am I looking up for in engineers when, like, if they're coming, if they're fresh grads, right? For example, or just starting their career. So what we are looking for is hungry people. Hungry people with the attitude that they are willing to put hours into learning and growing themselves. Be proactive. This is one of the important things. So like instead of sitting and waiting for somebody to give you a solution or something, you should be the person who is constantly engaging your like engineer manager or like the seniors that you're working with to basically like ask them for help to solve you the problems. And yeah, of course the problem solving skills. Like we are expecting you to come and have your logical thinking set up. So like you should be more or less independent as well, where like so that if you're given a problem, you should be able to solve it. But of course, like when you're just joining, we are providing a lot of mentorship as well. So like really, I would say that the hungry people is what we're looking for. And the second question was
system design.
System design. Is it expected by
how much is expected or what is expected from entry-level candidates?
Okay, I think I had it on the slide. How did I do it? So if you look at this interview, great here again, right? So when it comes to interns and fresh grads, we don't have a technical round 2. So technical round 2 is mostly the system design. So at Carousell, we're testing you on your problem solving skills and your coding skills. System design is something that probably you're gonna get by experience, right? So because you're gonna be working on the chat application, you would understand what's the architecture, how to solve these problems, right? But as a fresh grad, you probably don't have these kind of opportunities to learn this. So that's why for us, we don't really expect that. Maybe some other companies do.
Dewey says she's hungry. Yeah, I realized we're getting 1 o'clock. I think people want to get lunch as well. Su Ping has another question that I think I'll let her follow up with you afterward on that question about learning. So I think in the meantime, we'll wrap up this session. Thanks so much, Kan, for being with us today.